Welcome to The Quiet Truth, where lay Catholics actively undermine the secular culture. I'm Tom Borek with today's installment, Undermining the Secular Culture, Part 1. In our last episode, we described how cultural messages influence us to break up the extended family, which in turn makes successful Catholic parenting more difficult, even for a two-parent family. Logically, our next topic might be how the secular culture influences us to create the even more vulnerable one-parent family. But there's a problem. Addressing this issue at all involves defying one of the most powerful and pervasive commands of the secular culture: thou shalt not judge. This command means in particular that we're not supposed to judge or condemn people or their behavior as sinful. When I finally get around to addressing single parenthood, I will certainly be accused of hate, because no matter how carefully and respectfully I proceed, I will have to express a judgment that single parenthood, like homelessness or influenza, is something to be avoided. And that judgment will offend many people, who will conclude that I must hate everyone who has sex outside of marriage, or has children outside of marriage, or has been divorced, or has been widowed, or has for any reason become a single parent. But I will have to be even more provocative than that. I will not only have to say that single parenthood is to be avoided because it has certain disadvantages, I will also have to say that single parenthood is often the direct result of sin, and that an uncritical acceptance of sinful behavior encourages a more sinful society. Upon hearing that, nearly everyone will conclude that I'm a hater. And even many people who agree with me will hang their heads and wonder, how could he be so very rude? All of which brings us to today's primary question. Should we Catholics judge or not judge? The answer is that we must judge, and judge fairly when the time is right, and that we must refrain from judging when the time is wrong. In identifying the right and wrong times, we must be guided, as in all things, by faith and reason. And we must avoid just accepting the instructions of the secular culture, which are, as usual, full of foolishness and evil. In the past, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. famously dreamed of a day when individuals would be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Unfortunately, today, even judgments based on the content of one's character are frowned upon, and that is frankly insane. The culture says that we must not judge someone for marital infidelity, for drug or alcohol abuse, for vulgar language, for abortion, or for unmarried parenthood. Possibly the most extreme example of this is a newish legal fad that's sweeping the nation. It's called ban the box. More and more states are banning the box, meaning that they are passing laws making it illegal for an employer to ask a potential job applicant about past criminal convictions. The idea is that the employer must not judge someone based on past behavior, even behavior that was so egregious that it justified putting them in prison for years. Advocates of these laws will sometimes say that these ex-convicts should be given a clean slate because they have, quote, paid their debt to society, unquote. The theory is that they should be given a higher status because they were caught, in comparison to people who did the exact same crime or set of crimes but got away with it and were not caught. That whole thing is really pretty silly. Once again, it's the church that got it right. People should be forgiven, but only when they've confessed, apologized, made restitution, and sincerely undertaken to never commit that offense again. And even then, you don't give an alcoholic the keys to the liquor cabinet, and you don't help a pedophile get a license to operate a daycare center. Just a side note, I take no position on the ban the box legislation. Thoughtful, faithful Catholics can agree or disagree on that political matter. I use it only as an example of the never judge mindset that is coming to dominate our secular society. We must, at times, judge people's character by their past conduct, even past misconduct. What kind of parent would support his daughter's decision to marry a man with a history of abusing women? But Daddy, he really loves me, and he so wants to change. And what kind of store manager would turn the keys over to a heroin addict? Well, you sure you're off the junk for good? Okay, here are the keys. But when I come back from vacation, I don't want to see my store trashed and you passed out in the alley. You know, like last year. Some will ask, what about mercy? To which I say, I'm all for it. The church is all for it. Feed the hungry, clothe the naked, visit the imprisoned, heal the sick, whether they're saints or sinners. But do not ever, by your act or admission, encourage people to sin. In modern secular fiction, TV, films, books, the character who labels behavior as sinful or who encourages people to avoid sin is never one of the leads and is never the hero. He or she is generally a sour, prudish, unattractive, friendless individual whose only joy in life is making other people miserable. Sometimes the character is a clown, at other times he or she is a villain. When we confront a sinner, even in the gentlest and most supportive way, we become that ridiculous character in the eyes of people who are in sync with the popular culture. We appear either supremely foolish or supremely villainous. Yet, as Catholics, we are obliged to lead others to salvation. We must help Christians and non-Christians alike to learn and accept the truth, to grow in virtue, and to avoid sin. If we always refrain from judging, we will certainly fail. In fact, we won't even be in the game. On the other hand, if we are always busy judging, we will also fail. We will become, in fact, that clownish villain of popular fiction. Not smart. So how can we know when to judge and when to refrain from judging? In their excellent best-selling negotiation guide, Getting to Yes, Uri and Fisher recommend being easy on the person and hard on the issues. There is no more important principle of persuasion. Insulting the listener always makes the listener less receptive to your message. On the other hand, being relentlessly clear, firm, logical, and truthful about the issues leads to better results. Applying these ideas to Catholicism, we arrive at a parallel principle. Be easy on the sinner, but hard on the sin. Treat the sinner as well as possible. That means minimizing negative judgments about the sinner and about his or her behavior. At the same time, absolutely never encourage or approve of sin, and condemn it whenever that condemnation is likely to help discourage it. This two-pronged approach can help improve relationships, make people more receptive to the truth, and contradict the evils and foolishness of the secular culture. It's the best way that I know to strengthen the Catholic community and improve society as a whole. Unfortunately, doing it right requires a great deal of thought and practice. We are predisposed to do it wrong, to judge, criticize, and one-up people without really listening to them, while at the same time we're predisposed to avoid confrontation about what is or what is not sinful behavior. In other words, we are inclined to be hard on the sinner and soft on the sin. Our next video will include a step-by-step guide that can help anyone drastically improve his or her ability to speak with sinners about sin. Thank you for your kind attention.